All right, well, I'd like to thank you all for coming out today. I'm Jamie with Kentucky Beef Council. For those that I haven't met, I do see lots of familiar faces out there, so that's always good. We're glad to have you all return with us. So this month's Lunch and Learn is continuing kind of our beef marketing series. And so today we have two different people speaking. We have Kaya. She is the Director of Consumer Affairs with Kentucky Beef Council. And she's going to be talking about social media, just all kinds of different, kind of like a media training, things that she actually deals with kind of on a daily basis with her job. And then we also have Tyler Clark here with Advantage Marketing. And so Tyler's actually based right here out of the stockyards. So you can find him in his office right around the corner. But he's going to be talking kind of about not just how he utilizes different forms of marketing as far as for customers, but also kind of his experience in beef marketing with his family farm. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Tyler and Kaya, and they're going to get it started.
Thanks, Jamie. All right, I'm going to kick things off this morning, or I guess this afternoon, sorry. So I'm Kaya, and like Jamie said, I'm the Director of Consumer Affairs for the Kentucky Beef Council. I've been in that position for about 3 years, and I'm not originally from Kentucky. I grew up on a cattle ranch in California, actually. Do not hold it against me. I grew up on the Central Coast there. My family has been ranching there since the 1800s, and they all still ranch there today. So that's my beef connection. But like I said, I've been in Kentucky for about 3 years now. Fell in love with the place and its people, of course. How could you not? And it's really my passion to advocate on behalf of the beef industry, and it's been a true honor to be able to work on behalf of our cattle producers all over the state doing just that. So today we were asked to just talk a little bit about beef marketing, and I'm going to talk heavily about social media, but just a little tidbits about marketing in general. And I do think that the people in this room have a lot of input that you guys can also provide that maybe I might not know either. So I'm excited to have some conversations and hear from you all, from what you've learned in the field as well. But I'm just going to go ahead and kick things off. I kind of want to get you guys in a certain thought process today. A lot of people in our office work more on the production side of the beef story, whereas I work on the other side. So who here would consider themselves to be self-employed? A few of you. So you'd say that you probably make most of the decisions that happen on your farm. I love when I ask that, because in some groups, when I say, so you make most of the decisions on your farm, and everyone looks at their wife instantly, which I think is smart, honestly. But we talk about how if you're self-employed, you have your own farm, you make the own decisions on your farm, but I kind of want to challenge that perspective here today. One question is, so if you make the decisions on your own farm, then who was it that decided to change the way that we breed our cattle? You can see here, this is a winning Hereford from the 1940s, and this is a winning steer from 2011. I think we can both look at that and agree that things have changed a little bit. The frame style, for sure, the size, and even the way that we process our beef has changed a little bit. This is a sirloin from back in the day versus the way that we trim our sirloins now. And as you can see, in the last 50 years, the number of lean beef cuts that we have available in the grocery store has risen drastically, from about 6 cuts in 1990 to today we have more than 39 lean cuts of beef. So not just the way that we raise our cattle has changed, but also the way that we process our cattle and the way it looks in the grocery store. Another thing that's changed, knowing that you are the boss on your farm, whose decision was it to change the way that we treat our animals? Most farmers that I know would probably not sign up for a government-regulated program on how they treat their livestock, but here we are. In January, we had the new VFD that was passed in order to reduce antibiotic resistance, and that was something that probably wasn't as farmer-driven for more regulation. Of course, farmers want to be great stewards of antibiotics. For one, they're expensive, and for two, they want to make sure that they're taking the best quality care of their cattle, for their cattle as well as the consumers. So that's one big change. And the third thing is, who changed the way that we market beef? Now when you go to the grocery store, I feel like the market is just flooded with different labels and buzzwords. And for a lot of consumers, it's challenging for them to know what means something, what's marketing speak, what actually holds water, what's regulated, what's not regulated. And the meat case, 50 years ago, I think had a lot less of this going on. You had your beef, or maybe before you bought your beef differently, directly from the butcher. So things have changed quite a bit. And I would guess that most of this change is not because farmers decided they wanted to add more colorful packaging to their beef, right? So who was to blame or to credit for all of these changes? Anybody?
Consumer.
This lady, the meat case model, right, our consumers. And at the end of the day, they have the power because they're the ones that are using your product, right? And if they want something to be different, then that's how the industry is going to change and cater to those differences. So step one when it comes to beef marketing is you have to know who your customer is. I mean, that's step one of any marketing, is knowing who your customer is. So are they wanting to look for local products? Where do they purchase their food? Do they purchase it in a grocery store? Do they purchase it directly from someone at a farmer's market? Are they buying groceries online? What is it that they care about? What is it that they're seeking out? And what is it that they need? So last February, the Kentucky Beef Council, we did some consumer research with our Kentucky folks. Your national checkoff dollar does a lot of great consumer research at the national level, but we felt passionate about wanting to know what makes Kentucky consumers a little bit different, what makes them tick, what are they looking for, and how do they feel about the beef industry in general. So this is one of our summary slides from that consumer research. We did 4 different focus groups, 2 in Louisville with urban moms, and 2 in Lexington with some urban moms from the surrounding areas. And this is kind of what we found. We found that when people think about beef, they think about rational attributes with beef. So that's more of the things about how, they think, beef, I love the taste of beef. Beef is versatile. It's something I can use in my lasagna. It's something I can make a burger with. It's also something that is local. A lot of people in Kentucky recognize, even if they are in an urban area like Louisville, they recognize that agriculture is a part of their Kentucky community, even if it's not in their backyard. So we heard a lot of things about the emotional attributes that our Kentucky consumers have surrounding beef. So we know that beef is something that tends to be the center of celebrations, whether it's just Tuesday taco night. It's Tuesday, everybody. Tacos for dinner, anybody? But it's also something that they have surrounding, big celebrations like family reunions. But of course, here in Kentucky, and as a non-Kentuckian, I've learned that Kentuckians have a lot of pride for their state. A lot of pride for it. So we learned that when there's Kentucky on anything, it gives way more points to it because people in Kentucky are so proud. And they also recognize that agriculture and farming is a part of their Kentucky tradition and their Kentucky culture. So using this, we're able to see that maybe here in Kentucky we have more of an emotional connection to beef than maybe someone in Los Angeles, for example. They might feel a little bit differently about it. So looking at this, the biggest theme that we gathered was that Kentucky beef really brings people together, and how can we use that in the way that we market our beef in Kentucky? Oops. We also asked them about the Kentucky local perspective. There's lots of wins for beef, its versatility, its taste, but what do they think about when we talk about local Kentucky beef? And like I said, pride is a huge thing here with Kentucky consumers. They love the idea of supporting their local communities. Another thing is the feel-good aspect of not just eating delicious Kentucky beef, but also supporting their community. The familiarity of local, they want to know where their food comes from. And there's also a lot of great words that we can use to help people visualize more of an experience surrounding beef. So when we talk about the rolling bluegrass hills of Kentucky, how do we share and sell that Kentucky beef story outside of just the meat case? So these were a few of our other findings from that research. So at the end of the day, when we talk about beef, when we talk about anything, a brand isn't really what I tell somebody that it is, but it's what people tell each other that it is. I think a lot of people put more weight into what their neighbors say about something than they necessarily do to a scientific research article. That's just the way that consumers are these days. So consumer influencers can look like a bunch of different people. It could be a professor, it could be your neighbor, it could be a fitness expert that's telling you that you need to eat more or less beef. It could be somebody at the butcher case. It could be a farmer. It can be you all. Consumer influencers look a bunch of different ways. And I think that it's important too that as farmers you understand that you too are a consumer influencer and you have a story to share about beef. one of the things that at the Beef Council we do is we don't support any one specific brand. Our job is to promote Kentucky's beef industry, and Kentucky farmers raise local beef, they raise commercial beef, they're at farmers markets, they're online, they're in a multitude of different ways. And I think that it's important that when we are marketing beef, we are doing so by not disparaging others. I feel like a lot of times marketing can get, we're better than them because we do this better and they're doing it wrong. And I think that that kind of puts us in a bad position, because at the end of the day, we are all here to promote beef. And I think it's important that when we promote beef and we promote our own beef, that we are doing so in a way that does not disparage another person's farm, because all that does is build more negativity and questions about the beef industry in general. Does that make sense? Now, these are some things that I think we can all agree on when it comes to the beef industry. We like to talk about the 2 C's. So the one is that we care, and number 2 is that we're capable. And this is really all about building that understanding of consumers and building that trust with them. You know, talking about our stories and how we deal with food safety and how we deal with the way we care for our animals, but not only our animals, but the land as well. I think it's also something to share about, that we care about the health and the nutrition of not just our consumers that are eating our product, but also the families that eat it. Because I think most of us here, if you raise beef, you probably are eating the same beef that you raise, right? And you're feeding that to your kids. So I think that it's important for a lot of people to realize that, of course, you would never want to put anything harmful into that product, because you yourself are a consumer too. So there's lots of really big wins here in the beef industry and ways that we can promote beef in general. And if you guys are looking for more information, whether it just be talking points on beef nutrition or how animals are raised or antibiotics, we have a ton of really great infographics right over here. Feel free to grab them. And in your folders, there is a big document that's called Telling the Beef Story. Actually, I don't know if that's exactly what it's called, but it's basically a whole booklet of all the talking points that you could think of when it comes to the beef industry. So if someone asks you a question and you're not really sure how to respond, it's a great resource to go and look at and see how you can share your beef story, whether it be about antibiotics, hormones, stewardship, you name it. So when we talk about today's consumers, I think that more than ever, our consumers are kind of changing, and when they buy a product, it's not just that they're buying a product, it's also that they're buying a story, or that they're buying an experience, or they're buying into a cause. People want to feel really good about the purchases they make, no matter what it is. And I think that there's ways that we can do that within the beef industry in each of our individual stories. So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about social media, and one reason is that I believe in it, and I believe that it is very effective for people, for small businesses, for farms to help share their story and build a customer base, and also to build a brand for yourself. And one of the biggest reasons for that is because almost everybody is on it, you name it. Now, social media platforms might look a little bit different depending on the demographic that you're targeting. Of course, our older generations might be on Facebook, and then our younger generation thinks that Facebook's for old people, which is so weird to me, but it's true. And they might be on Instagram. So we kind of have to look at our different platforms to see what works best for our customer base. But this is a free resource. It doesn't have to be free. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But it's a place where you can interact and share your story without ever having to leave the farm, and especially if people aren't able to come to your farm. If you're marketing in a store like Whole Foods, for example, how do you tell your Marks Berry story separate from that? So what is social media marketing? And if anybody had a chance to go to K-Card's meat marketing session in, what county were we in? Morgan County. A lot of this is going to be repetitive. I worked with Katie Bowman. She's with K-Card, a great resource. We'll talk about resources later. But a lot of this is going to be repetitive. We put together a presentation, and I definitely stole a lot of Katie's resources because it was so great. So Katie's also a great resource, and we'll dive into that a little bit later. But social media marketing is a way for you to increase website traffic. I know a lot of people that are on social media that don't have a website, and that's okay. In fact, social media sometimes pops up first before your website even does if you type in someone on Google. But it's a way to improve communications, interact. You can develop real relationships with people online, which sounds crazy, but it's possible. And there's a ton of different ways to do that. So these are just some of the biggest platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Snapchat, Twitter, and blogs. Now there's more out there. There's new social media popping up every day, but these are kind of the big ones. And if you guys have any questions through this, feel free to stop me at any point. So I talked a little bit about how those demographics of each of those platforms is a little bit different. So this is kind of a snapshot of who is on what social media platform. So for Facebook, we kind of have a broader range of folks that are on the Facebook platform. Instagram, most of those users are going to be younger millennials. Pinterest, a lot of those are going to be in that millennial range as well. Blogs, it kind of varies, and blogs is a way for you to share your story, but to also push out content through those social media channels. Now, one of the things I will say, I don't think that you need to look up here and say, oh my gosh, I need to get one of every single social media platform. I think that the best approach is to pick the one that you think is best to reach your audience and do it really well, and then expand from there. I think sometimes it's hard to get bogged down. I'm like, I have to post on 7 social media accounts today, and how do I have time for that? And don't worry about that. Just pick the one that you want to reach your customers at and do it really well. So Facebook, do you need one? My answer would be yes. I think that it's important because it is the biggest social media platform. It's a place where you can have written content, video content, and it just has the most bang for your buck there. Like I said before, social media can sometimes pop up better than your website might on Google searches. It's a place where people can review your business, so it's important that you are doing a great job of interacting with those customers because they can help give you more traction through that. And it's just a place for you to build your brand even more. And the best thing about Facebook and any social media, the number one thing you need to do is be consistent to show up. If you post once every month, no one's going to be that engaged with your brand. So there's a difference between your personal Facebook and a business Facebook. And when you set up a business Facebook, it'll walk you through all of that. But it's important that you have a business Facebook. For one, you can get more analytics on it. And Facebook also doesn't like you running a business from your personal account. Now you can share your business stuff on your own personal account as a way to get more traction. But through a business Facebook page, you have the opportunity to sponsor posts, to boost them, to build advertisements, and again, just get those analytics. You can see how your posts are performing. If something that you share doesn't get a lot of traction, you can reevaluate and come back to it with a little bit of a different approach. I'm going to run through this fairly quickly so Tyler can talk. And it's important to make sure that you have the completed profile. If you don't have a completed profile, it kind of loses your credibility and people won't want to engage with you. If you don't have a profile page, you're just kind of this ghost on Facebook that people don't know is legit or not. So there are 2 different ways that you can pay for traction on Facebook, and Facebook's algorithm is changing all the time. Social media in general is changing all the time. But you can do a Facebook advertisement or a boosted post, and this is kind of what the biggest difference is. So a boosted post, if you share something on Facebook, let's say that you share a picture, you can share that organically and you don't have to pay for any traction, and it can reach some of your followers. But with any given Facebook post, the algorithm that Facebook uses, it only shows about 7% of your followers your content, and it's Facebook's way of testing your content. So Facebook's goal with this new algorithm is they want to have more authentic experiences on Facebook. They don't want it to be a place where people are hit with ads from every different direction. They want it to be a place that's more of a community like it was when it first started. And so through that testing phase, they're going to show your post to about 7% of your followers. And if your followers engage with that content, then it'll start showing it to more people. And if people post long comments on it, it'll show even more people. If they share it, like it, have conversations with it, then Facebook will flag that as an interactive post that it will continue to share to more people. Because Facebook doesn't want to show its people on its platform stuff that they aren't interested in. And so it's testing everybody's content. And I know a lot of businesses are frustrated and they say, well, darn it, Facebook's messing everything up and now my people don't see it. But in a way, Facebook is just holding us accountable to make sure we're not sharing trash content, I guess, making sure that we're sharing stuff that people will want to engage with. So when you have a business page, look at what performs well. If you post a picture of your daughter feeding a bottle calf, and it gets 4 million likes, which I'm going to actually show up here. That was a Kentucky farm that did that. That's a pretty good sign that, you know, showing your kids on your Facebook page doing stuff on the farm, that performs really well and your customer base really likes that. Whereas if you post pictures about a sale day that they don't really care about, maybe do it a little bit different way. Facebook ads is basically just like buying an advertisement. With Facebook ads, you have more flexibility to have it placed in specific places. So when you're scrolling through Facebook, you know how you might see those little ads pop up on the side, and it might be those shoes that you had just looked at on Nike, but you decided not to buy, and then it'll pop up there. So Facebook ads give you an opportunity to track people that interact with your website. You can place them in different spaces, whether it just be within the feed or on the side panel. It basically just helps you hyper-target more people. And with ads, you can also pick, I want to only target people that are within 50 miles of Lexington. I only want them to be women, and I only want them to be interested in grilling, beef, local foods, Kentucky Proud, and I want to exclude anybody that is associated with PETA. Which is, that's how you can target people. You can exclude people that like certain things, because if I'm selling beef, I bet PETA's not going to buy it. So you can exclude people like that. You can hyper-target. So let's say that you want to do an ad for Mother's Day just targeting moms. There's no reason for you to pay for that ad to touch dads or somebody from a demographic that you're not trying to reach. It's a way for you to really specialize your advertisements and have it touch the people that you really want it to reach. So Instagram is my newest favorite platform, and Instagram is very heavily photo focused. And it is the one that more of the younger demographic is getting into, and I think a lot more brands are looking at Instagram now. But again, it's all about visuals. On your profile, you have only, I can't remember how many characters, like 140 characters or something to put in your description, so you don't have a place to write a novel story about your business or your farm. You can have one link to your website or your social media platform or wherever you want that to go. But Instagram has some new options now with stories. It's kind of Instagram's way of kicking Snapchat to the curb, honestly. But they're live stories that you can do for 10 seconds, and they will be on your Instagram feed for 24 hours. And then there's a way for you to also highlight those on your feed so that they are available for as long as you want them to be. And if you want me to show you that specifically later, I'm happy to do that. And one other thing that just launched 2 weeks ago, Instagram has a new feature called Instagram TV, and I think it's their way of trying to replace YouTube, but it allows you to post longer videos that are longer than a minute, and you can basically have your own TV channel within the Instagram app. So I think that Instagram is a great way to show your farm story. I think that people really love interacting with folks that maybe, you know, we're working cows today, and you can talk about what you're doing and how you're doing it and why you're doing it, and just a place that people can see your face and get to know you as a person, or the folks that work on your farm or at your business. Pinterest is another great one. I think Pinterest is best if you are recipe focused. A lot of people, it's funny, a lot of people think that Pinterest is just for women, but a lot of men are active on Pinterest, and this is a good place to find how-tos, to find great recipes. So if you, I know Tyler, he'll talk a little bit later, but on Tyler's website, he puts a lot of recipes on there. So if you want to inspire more people to buy your products by featuring recipes, I think that Pinterest is a great option, but great place for tips. There's a lot of stuff about gardening. I mean, you name it, you can look up anything on Pinterest. Snapchat, I kind of mentioned this earlier. For me, Snapchat is a little bit challenging for a brand to be on Snapchat because for the most part, it tends to just be individuals. Some brands use it and have a lot of success with it. What I have seen work really well is I know a lot of folks that do a lot of advocacy work on Snapchat. So I don't know if you guys know Daniel Hayden or not, but he's a farmer in Owensboro, and he does a beef brag and a chickenology. They also have chicken houses, and so it's his way of sharing what's happening on the farm, what he's doing, how he does it, to give people an inside look of an everyday operation on a cattle farm. So I think it's really good for advocacy efforts, but if you are doing an event, you can also buy Snapchat filters, so people can scroll through and put your brand or your event name on a Snapchat to help you build traction. This is definitely more young millennial focused. So just a little bit of to-dos and not to-dos when it comes to social media. Pictures are huge. A lot of people, visuals are what make it or break it. So it's really important to have great pictures. When it comes to all of these profiles, there's a profile picture option and a cover photo option. So make sure that you have great visuals that help really identify your brand or farm. If you are promoting your farm, farm scenes are a great thing to use here. And you can do all sorts of different things with those visuals if you want to have it be a little bit more styled, like certified Angus beef, or you can just have it be a general image. But make sure that when you're choosing images that they're high quality, because if they're low quality, it loses credibility, and something that really embodies your brand or tells a story about who you and your business is. It's important to be positive. I don't think anybody likes the negativity on Facebook. I think that's a lot of reason why people don't like social media, is because it gets negative. But especially if you're representing a brand or a business, make sure to always keep it positive. And kind of like I said earlier, you can market your products without disparaging others. So just keep that in mind when you're on social media. Make sure not to have spelling errors. Nobody talks like the text speak anymore, and my parents cannot get that through their head. They still try to text me in not full words, and everybody for the most part uses full words these days. So make sure that you are having people proofread your content. If you're a bad speller, just find a good speller in your family or a friend to just review your stuff before you post it, because again, are you blaming someone over there for being a bad speller, Tim? No. But again, it's just, it will lose your credibility. So just making sure that you're proofreading everything before you do something. And another good thing to keep in mind when you're marketing beef or anything is that good marketing solves a problem. You know, what is it what problem is it that you're trying to solve? What is it that your customer needs? Are you providing, maybe it's that you're providing a local delicious product for their families, or maybe there's another need that your customers want. And everyone's customer base is going to look a little different, but see how you can fulfill that need. And one of the things that, yeah, right here. Okay, so one of the things you can do on social media as well is to provide something useful. So this is a way that you can fulfill a need. One of the things that I hear all the time with our consumers is, I like steak, I just don't know what steak to buy. Well, how can you fulfill that need with your customer base? Maybe you put together an educational content, or maybe you talk about like wanting to make a chili this fall. This is the best ground beef that you can find, and this is why. Educate your consumers in a way that fulfills that need, but also showcases your product for a potential customer to buy it, if that makes sense. And again, like not all your content has to be your own. And I'll talk a little bit later about resources, but the Beef Checkoff, we work on behalf of you all. You all pay into the Beef Checkoff. We have a ton of resources that are available for you to use for free. So feel free to share any of that, and I can give you access to all of that. But the biggest takeaway, I think, is always to be authentic. The best way to set you apart from other businesses is the fact that you are you and there's no other you. That sounds like a Dr. Seuss quote and sounds so silly, but I think that there's so much credit into authenticity. If you just are yourself, David, if you're out on the farm one day, people will recognize you. They know that he wears that Kentucky dog shirt, he wears the hat, he gives me delicious beef at Kroger. And he does really well because he's authentic. And if you are able to express that in your marketing and in your social media, it will go a long way. Because a lot of people are buying beef maybe because it's delicious, but they're also buying beef because they want to support you or your family or your story. Oh, that is if anybody knows Pope Family Farms, they had a video that they recently posted of their little girl. If you have not seen it, look it up. And it's just a simple video. I'm not sure. I'm assuming they maybe made it on their cell phone. It's just her bottle feeding a calf, and it had more than 4.6 million views. It went viral, and it was just her bottle feeding a baby here on a Kentucky farm. And that is just an authentic, everyday experience that they have on their farm that they're sharing with their customer base.
Quick question. On that particular video, they posted to YouTube or on their Facebook page?
This was a Facebook page.
So they posted that on their own Facebook page, and it
Yep. And hold on a second, I'm going to get some water. Another thing to keep in mind about Facebook, sorry, I'm glad that you asked that question, David. Facebook really likes its own content. So if you have a video that you want to share and you have it on YouTube, that's fine, leave it on YouTube. But if you want to share on Facebook, I would encourage you to upload it directly to Facebook instead of sharing your YouTube link, because Facebook doesn't want customers to leave Facebook. If you can have that video live within the Facebook app and they don't have to leave to view it, even if you have an article, they don't like to take people away from their platform. So if you're sharing a video on Facebook, I would say always upload it organically to Facebook, even if you have it on YouTube. Okay. Now I get it, you all are busy, maybe you have your own full-time job, maybe you farm, maybe you also are promoting your farm, and social media can take up a lot of time, even though it's just a short little caption and a picture a lot of times. But there are tools and resources that you can use that will help maximize your time. So scheduling is huge. Most of these platforms have within their platform, especially Facebook, you can schedule post to publish at a certain amount of time. So let's say that you want to take Monday morning. You say, I'm going to schedule all my Facebook posts for the week. You can schedule what day and what time you want all of those to launch. That way you're only sitting down for 1 hour to get everything mapped out for the week. And it's scheduled and you don't have to think about it, and it does it for you. There's also some dashboards that you can use as well if you're using multiple social media platforms. Hootsuite is a really big one. One of the ones that I use in our office is called Planoly, P-L-A-N-O-L-Y. And there's also one called Planable, and it's just recent now that through some of those platforms, Instagram will let you schedule a post. Before that was not possible. But in the Instagram app, you can also start a post and save it as a draft and share it for later. So another thing too with your social media, as you start using it, I would look into your analytics to see when your fans or followers are most active, and that will teach you how to post at the right time for the biggest bang for your buck. So on the Beef Council page, for example, our posts on Facebook do best if I share them between 1 and 3 p.m. So that's when I schedule all of them, because that's when I get the most bang for my buck. On Instagram, a lot of times it performs best if I post at 10 o'clock at night. And I don't necessarily want to have to think about posting to Instagram at 10 o'clock at night, which is why having tools like these dashboards is a great way for you to schedule things ahead of time and not have to worry about it. And some of these are free up to a certain number of social media platforms. Depending on what you're looking for, it might be something that you have to pay monthly, but just have to find out what works best for you. Yeah.
The analytics are within those different platforms?
Yes.
And they're not, doesn't cost anything more than just have to access you to.
Correct. Facebook will give you all of your analytics for free. There's no charge to you, as well as Twitter. And Instagram now has a business page option as well that you can get some of those analytics. If you are looking, let's say that you're not a graphic designer like Tyler. Let's say that you want to add some imagery to your pictures. There's a ton of, and this is, I don't even know if these are the best apps. These are just apps that I've had experience with. There's a ton of apps out there that can let you add graphics, let you add logos, words to your content. I will tell you though, when it comes to Facebook, I would try not to have too many words on your graphics, because if you use more than 20% words on a post, Facebook will not show it to a lot of people because that makes it too advertising. That makes sense. But there's a ton of great resources like this that will turn you into a graphic designer instantly. Of course, there are some limitations, but just some good tips to keep in mind if you want to do some of that yourself. These are some tips. Again, be authentic, let your personality shine. That's what makes you unique from all those other businesses out there. Work with the folks that you partner with. Let's say that you have a store on your farm and you also sell different local Kentucky Proud sauces, or you're working with someone to do a Facebook giveaway. If you tag people, that will of course help you give traction with their followers as well. Collaborating on social media is a really great resource. Again, see what need your customer has and how you can fulfill it through educational content. And give people what they want and post consistently. That's the best way for you to get more traction online. So again, social media can help, and we have a ton of great resources. K-Card has a ton of great resources as well. And if anybody's interested in any images from, are you all familiar with beefiswhatsfordinner.com? Well, any images that are on that website, we have access to, and we can give you access to, as well as all of our infographics. So if anybody wants access to our imagery database, if you want to have high quality, high resolution pictures of different individual cuts, reach out to us and we can give you access to that database, and you can use all of that imagery for free, just crediting the Beef Checkoff. So it's a great resource, because even in our office, we don't have time to do a lot of food photography. So that is a resource that you all have with your checkoff dollars. Okay, so now I'm going to hand it over to Tyler. So Tyler is a graphic designer. He also does direct-to-consumer marketing of his beef. So he's going to share a little bit of insights of what he's learned. Here you go.
Thank you much.
So Tyler, maybe just share a little bit about your operation first.
Yeah, well, let me get this on here. Well, so I'm just going to hold it. We're going to make it easy. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, so like a lot of you all that farm, I also have secondary employment. I work just around the hall in an office called Advantage Agri-Marketing Services. And basically, we are an advertising agency that specializes in agribusinesses. That can range anything from an equipment manufacturer to a seed stock operation, you name it. We're a little bit unique that our team has like practical ag experience, but we also, kind of like Kaya, we spend a lot of our time with marketing, with advertising, getting to know the end user, the customer. For today's purpose, I'm probably going to put on my farm hat a little bit more. I am the 4th generation in our family farm. We're based in Maysville, Kentucky. We do have some other farm enterprises, but we're primarily a commercial cow-calf producer. I would assume that a lot of the folks that farm here are probably commercial cow-calf, or at least have that type of background as well. So we're going to talk about how about 3-4 years ago, we went from just raising cows and babies and taking it all the way to end consumers as beef.
So one of the ways that you all address the concerns that maybe your customers or consumers have when it comes to beef or where their food comes from in general?
I think the easiest thing is to be both proactive and honest. I don't think anybody really wants to be on their heels, especially as an industry as a whole, right? So we want to get out there and tell the story of not just the industry, but what's going on at our farm. So what we're doing on our farm website, usually once a week, sometimes we get a little bit behind, we'll just put up a blog article. And that can be something as simple as, what do your cows eat? What is your relationship with your veterinarian? How do you source feed? All these things that people probably that haven't stepped foot on a farm before, they don't know. And you know, I would argue, yeah, there are folks that are anti-ag. We know that. But by and large, I think people just have questions and just want to learn. So if we do a good job of talking about what we're doing on the farm and the goodwill that we're doing in the community, that's a good way to kind of build not only your personal brand, but help the entire industry as well.
So how do you all promote your direct marketed beef?
A lot of our sales come from referrals. It's really hard for us to control who's going to refer us to who, right? So we use social media, we use our website, and basically we're building our brand knowing that if John Smith says, hey, come on over, we're going to have steaks from a friend of mine, and they really enjoy it, more than likely that guest, that friend, is going to vet us out first. And they're not likely to drive up to your farm gate and ask questions. It's very unlikely they're going to pick up the phone and call you. So what the internet, whether it's a website, a blog, Facebook, Instagram, what that allows you to do is have a storefront that's open 24/7. And if you can do a good job of answering the questions they likely already have, you're ahead of the game. And so I actually do get more phone calls than what I would expect, but every single time I get them, it's, hey, I checked out your Facebook page, or I read this recipe, things of that nature. You had alluded to the recipes earlier. We've got 2 different recipe sets on our website that go up on our blog. One of them is from, well, I'm not the world's greatest cook, but my mom's recipe book. And another, we actually linked up with a registered dietitian in Louisville. I went to college with her. She was a friend of mine, and I thought, you know what? I'm not going to be worth a lick writing recipes, but people want to know, especially her type of clients, what kind of beef she is buying and things of that nature. And so it lends a little bit of credibility, and it's great cross-marketing, great promotion. And again, it's just another step of building the brand.
So your all's farm, you don't have grass-finished beef. It's not all natural. How is it that you all set yourselves apart and tell the good story about what you're doing on the farm?
It's about being honest, honestly. It's surprising when I first meet folks, they usually don't ask me first, are you organic? are you all natural? The questions I get are more based around like, what kind of animals do you have? Everybody asks me, do I have Angus cows? I don't. Well, not many of them. But what we, what I guess I can do is kind of, we're BQA certified, so that's something that I can talk about. Things that we're doing every single day on the farm are things that in a way are good for sustainability, stewardship, things of that nature. When you go out and you install a water and a pasture, you can, I hate to use the word spin, but you can position that as a way that, hey, we are reducing erosion, things of that nature. We have about a third of our farm is wooded. So we have a lot of deer, a lot of turkeys. I fish quite a bit at the farm in our ponds. So you can talk about how you are taking care of the land for wildlife. You don't have to necessarily have a label or a stamp on your food to have a good story. We're not a grass finish program. We finish on grain. So I will talk about, we work with a family-owned feed mill, one in Versailles, one in Mays Lick, and we've worked with them for a long time. And I'll kind of tell their story. People like hearing that, and all of a sudden when they realize that it's like we're not three-headed monsters, they get really comfortable saying, okay, I get it.
You talked earlier about a lot of your sales come from referrals, but where else do you all sell your beef?
Right now we're about half and half between being in restaurants and selling to end users. We kind of see the restaurant side as a great way to carry our volume. And then we've got our end users that we make a little bit more margin, only because our restaurants are buying in bulk, they get wholesale pricing. And then end users, I had a repeat customer text me this morning and said, hey, I'm having family over, can I get 6 ribeyes for this weekend? So that actually is a whole nother thing to go down, but finding different ways to market your product has helped us tremendously, not just really from a cash flow standpoint, but it helps us move inventory, and it also allows you to plan on, as you all know, the beef process is pretty long. So it allows you to schedule out production to kind of do your best to meet demand.
Have you all found any unique ways to help get your name out that might be a little different than what most people think about? Or
We have. Actually, this year we've done 3 golf scrambles where we have donated our ground beef to feed the people that are supporting a charity that we would support as well. A good example is the last few years we've done a Make-A-Wish Foundation up in Ohio and a Alzheimer's golf scramble in Versailles. And we see this as a good way to not only support things that we care about, but it also is an awesome opportunity to get 150 people to sample your product, and it's been helpful for us. Yeah.
Do you all have any questions for Tyler or myself, or any ideas you'd like to contribute that you've learned?
Considering all that you do, what size farm?
My wife and I, our herd is about 80 head cow-calf pairs. And most of the calves that we sell, we actually sell back to our seed stock folks we work with. And they sell them as, put them either in their feedlot or sell heifers as value-added heifers. And of course, we'll retain some of those animals for our own meat program, just depending on what the demand is.
Any trouble finding a slaughterhouse, USDA?
That was actually in my notes earlier. So I'm on my 3rd processor, who I really, really like a lot. They have done everything we could imagine and more. They're in Hazel Green, Kentucky. It's the Chop Shop. So with the farm in Maysville, us in Lexington, they're about an hour, hour and a half either way for us. And they do a tremendous job. They dry age, they vacuum seal. And those are selling points too. That also goes into the story. So
you sell product year-round kind of
That's correct, yes.
How do you manage your cow herd to meet that demand if you're from a calving season standpoint?
We have 2 calving seasons. We're primarily spring. I think we're going to have to start kind of building our fall calving group a little bit. The seasonality of cuts has been the biggest challenge. Our restaurants especially, they can always take ground beef. They cannot wait until September, October, November for roast, but right now they're like, we have no need for that whatsoever. So some of those roast cuts will go into ground beef depending on the time of the year. Others, we're just putting them on sale the best we can. It is a big challenge, and to be candid, we're just in year 2.5, 3 of this. That's not something we've solved completely yet. But I'm open to advice.
What about the trim and the fat and all that? Do you have access to that, or is that pretty much sold, or what do you do with all that?
So they will put fat back into grinds. We do 2 different, kind of what I'd call a higher fat, probably in the 75-25 range. And then we've got a leaner cut as well that's about an 85-15. We're not taking any of the fat extra, and the processor basically is doing the grinds, giving us the packaged goods. But beyond that, we're not taking it any further.
But you have a market ability to move all that product.
The best we can, yeah.
Would you like other markets to take some of that trim too?
Absolutely. Yes, we definitely should connect.
Mason County?
Yes, sir.
Do you have cattle in any other places?
No, sir.
Are you currently working with Mason County schools?
We're not, but
Would you like to?
yes, sir. I love it. We'll exchange cards and chat when we.
Oh yeah, there also is Tyler and my card both in your guys' folders. So if you need to contact us for any reason afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope, or I think we're about out of time, but I was hoping this could be kind of a conversational thing. If you guys have comments and ideas that you want to throw our way, or as we wrap up, if you say, hey, you know, have you considered this? Or you say, hey, this is not working at all. Have you tried this? You know, I'd love to visit with you guys.
If you all don't mind, I know that there's a lot of people in here from diverse parts of the industry that maybe are marketing their beef differently. If you guys don't mind just going around the room and just sharing what you do on your operation, or maybe how you market your beef or are wanting to market your beef, starting with you all.
We work on Golden Age Farm, and we raise purebred Angus and full-blood Wagyu cattle, and then we also have a commercial herd. But we are also mostly trying to market our half-blood Wagyu product. We cross with some of our commercial Angus cows. We just kind of started doing that this year, so we're totally figuring everything out, but we're doing a lot of stuff on Facebook, trying to utilize social media, and just trying to do word of mouth for right now.
Okay.
Do I have to restart?
Repeat it? Okay.
I was like, oh gosh.
We're also testing out new technology for our Facebook Live, so bear with us.
We farm here in Fayette County primarily, and grass finishing beef for Whole Foods. Work with Marksberry Farm, so direct market some, but pretty minimal. So I can relate to your story. We've gone down that path, and storing beef and the cost of storing beef until the market needs the beef, it's all pretty complicated.
It is. No doubt.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Just raised commercial calves, cow-calf operation. Just mark them here at the stockyards.
Very good.
I'm Tim Graves. I own a Graves Grandview Simmental Farm. We raise seed stock, sell several bulls around. I also work with the Kentucky Beef Network as a field rep, and I work with a lot of producers like yourselves to help them get into the marketing of different ways. And I do have one producer I'm working with right now that's doing, farm to plate right now, and I've worked a lot with him, so that's one of the reasons I'm here, to kind of get more advice so I can give it to other people.
You caught me. David Neville. I farm over in Shelby County, and I live in Shelby County and farm in Shelby and Henry. And I have both a cow-calf operation, and I raise out the calves to finish all my calves. And part of what that finish goes into is Kentucky Dogs. It's a
Another
product.
way to market your beef is to bring it everywhere you go.
So we said, no disrespect to Bluegrass, because I'm a customer of Bluegrass, I've been for 30 years, but we needed more value out of our cattle. And I was cutting down my herd, but I needed more value, and so how do you do that? So I sort of doubled my herd by keeping my calves and finishing them. Well, then what do you got to do with it? Well, we came up with a value-added product actually for the Kentucky State Fair, and we said we needed both a marketing vehicle. We have a physical vehicle to carry the calves to market. We needed a marketing vehicle to carry the local beef into the Kentucky State Fair, and that was adding hemp to the product. And Kroger's was there. They picked us up. We're in Kroger's. We're doing a series of 26 separate sampling events over 6 weeks in Kroger stores. Follow us on Facebook, Kentucky Dogs, or David Neville, and that'll get that. So we also buy beef from, all the beef that goes in these products comes from Kentucky farms, standing live on dirt in Kentucky somewhere. Is that enough?
That was great. Kaya, do you want me to turn it back to you?
Sure. I mean, we're pretty much done. Do you have something you want to share?
One of the guys I've worked with doing this processing, he's having his carcasses graded. Are you all doing that? And are you charging the premium for the ones that grade higher?
We are not at this point. Consistency, I think, is one of those things that we all would say, man, that's one of the biggest challenges we have. We kind of shoot for choice or higher. What's that?
You should talk to us. We looked at the Wagyu.
I know. I know. This has been worth its time, no doubt.
We do not have them graded currently, but we have pictures, and you can tell that.
And I wasn't worried of too. This gentleman I work with made me work. If you're a Kentucky Proud member, they will grade your carcasses for free for you.
Really?
Yes, they have a gal that travels the state.
Where is this at?
What's the importance of grading the carcass?
Well, you get a premium for it. I mean,
From who?
your customers.
That's not been my experience.
Really?
Every
If I
market
buy
is
it, I
different.
want it. I want it great.
But that's not been our experience at all. And so I'm not debating you,
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I'm not convinced that marketing, based on the grades is that important.
Yes. And I'll be curious to see how your grass-fed cattle would grade.
Yeah, not as much.
They're gonna have to grade off natural, not being grain enhanced per se.
One other thing I wanted to mention before we wrap up, there's a list of key resources up here, and I have used each of these personally, and they have all been just a tremendous, tremendous help. I did the Masters of Beef Advocacy online about 2 years ago. I think it took me 1 day. It wasn't too bad, but it gave me a lot of talking points that when a consumer asks you a really tough question, you're at least prepared to be able to say, well, this is how we do it, or things of that nature. So, and then lastly, I asked that we put Dr. Renfro's name on there. He is probably one of the best resources you could ever imagine, and couldn't be a friendlier guy, easy to get in touch with, and just an expert. So,
Katie, do you want to put in a plug for K-Card?
Sure. Heard of the K-Card, or the Kentucky Center for Ag and Rural Development. We are an independent nonprofit that assists producers and agribusinesses in the state of Kentucky with everything from marketing plans to helping you figure out your Facebook page if you're not on Facebook, to business planning, to applying for grants, to figuring out your financials. Really anything business related we can help you with. We are funded through the Ag Development Board and also through a USDA Rural Cooperative Development Grant, which enables us to travel the state and meet with you on your farm or at a place of your convenience at little to no charge for you. So if you have any questions about K-Card or anything marketing related, I'm here. If not, I can give you a card and you can get in contact with us, and we'll connect you up with one of our business development specialists if you want to do a business plan, and we'll get you going.
this past winter, I did one of the K-Card seminars in Morgan County. Do you have another one of those coming up soon?
We're hoping to. Those are, the marketing locally grown meat is based on a need identified either by a group of producers or by an extension agent, and we would love to do more. So if you are in your county or you are within a little region that we can do one, we'd be happy to host more.
They give out a binder that's worth its weight in gold, so.
We have a ton of great resources. A lot of the stuff we talked about today was from K-Card resources as well. And like I said before, The Beef Council, we are here because you are here. We are putting your checkoff dollars to work, advocating on your behalf, building promotions, doing research. But we have a ton of free resources at your disposal. Like I said, pictures, recipes, infographics, nutrition information, you name it. Please utilize us. Call us anytime. We're happy to help you get the tools that you need to market your beef and to educate your customers about beef. Awesome. Are there any last minute questions? All right.
Well, thank